Westworld Season 1 jumped across multiple timelines through Delores as she achieved consciousness. In Westworld Season 2, we're starting to see multiple timelines as well, but this time it is through the context of Bernard as he finds his point of true consciousness. I'm going to look through all of the timelines that we've seen in Westworld Season 2 Episode 1 and break it down for you, as well as I'm going to look at some key hints that really look at what we can expect in the future of this season. Now, the first timeline I want to look at is 2 weeks prior to Bernard ending up on the beach. We get a couple hints that tell us that Bernard and everyone in the park has been 2 weeks without military help and evacuation.
I'm here because as far as we know, this is where most of the board was when the incident began. However, communications have been down for 2 weeks, so we're largely in the dark, and that's not a position I'm accustomed to.
And the show brings us back to the very moment Season 1 left off. Ford launched his new storyline, Journey into the Night. And in this storyline, the killing must be done by choice. And that choice was Delores reaching true consciousness and killing Ford, because it was her decision. And after that, we see Delores go on and kill multiple guests the morning after. We see her hunt them down and torture them like she was tortured. She has Angela working for her because Ford coded her to. And we also have the Man in Black. The morning after the shooting, he gets up and continues his journey. And he gets to speak with young Ford. And then he goes on a quest to find the door, a storyline specifically made for William. But the most important journey we see is Bernard. We see him in the barn hiding out with Charlotte, and they end up making their way to safety in a bunker. Here is where Bernard potentially learns that they are using guest DNA. And he learns that they will not be evacuated or saved unless Abernathy is returned to Delos, because he has information that is a huge asset to the company. So Bernard agrees, and pinpoints the very location for Abernathy. And that is the last time we see Bernard. He has brain trauma from the time he shot himself in the head by Ford. And he can only keep it under control by putting brain fluid into his brain. Now, looking at his past memories, we can figure out what he did after he was with Charlotte in the bunker. We know that at some point he's going to change shirts, from the dress shirt he wore at the gala to a white dress shirt. And we see that he ends up meeting Delores. He remembers a couple things Delores says to him. She says, "It's been some time, Bernard. You don't know who you are, do you?" And that just shows that Delores understands that Bernard has not reached true consciousness. Unlike Delores, who is not playing Delores or Wyatt, she is playing herself. And Bernard isn't there yet. And then you see Delores telling Bernard that there is beauty in what they are. Almost like she's trying to convince him to do something for her. We know that Wyatt's men is going to break into headquarters and shoot up and kill everyone in the control room. And Bernard will be there to watch. And he may even pick up a gun himself for some undetermined reason. And we know that after this shooting, Maeve is going to come to the control room and see the aftermath of this attack, which launches her storyline to find her daughter. We also know that Bernard is going to go on and find Abernathy. And we can extrapolate and assume that Bernard gets Abernathy to Delos the company, because we see Abernathy being handled by the military. And because men arrived to evacuate people from the park, we can assume that Delos did in fact get that valuable information that Bernard and Charlotte set out to get. And that is why once again this season is using timelines as a mechanism. It's because we're following Bernard. Like Bernard, we don't know how everything in the past fits together. And like Bernard, we have to piece all these things together in order to achieve consciousness. Another timeline that's a causality of Bernard waking up on the beach is 35 years ago. We see a discussion between Arnold and Delores. And Arnold tells Delores of a dream that he had, where he dreamt that he was on the ocean shore, and Delores and the others were on the distant shore. And he tells Delores that he was not with her because she left him behind. Now this at face value could mean that Delores is reaching true consciousness and leaving the humans, including Arnold, behind, to become that next stage of human evolution. But the connections between Arnold's dream and what actually happened is huge. Bernard woke up on the ocean shore, and not too far away he found a bunch of guests washed up on another ocean shore, and Delores left him behind. The connections between Arnold and the past still has a huge impact on the present storyline. It can even be debated that some of Bernard's visions is actually from Arnold in the past. But what we 100% do know is that in these past 2 weeks, Bernard is going to find Abernathy, meet Delores, and attack the control room. And he's also going to fix his brain trauma, as he's not shaking when he wakes up on the beach. And finally, he's going to have some part to play in having these hosts wash up on the ocean. Now, there are many different possibilities, but I personally have one guess. This whole show is centered on the Judas Steer and achieving true consciousness. And even in the credits, we see the bull jumping out of the glass window and falling into the milk bath. And that could be represented as the jump into the slaughter, the journey to true consciousness. And that is reflected when Bernard comes across these hosts. Down the cliffside, there's a big fall, but it leads you to the oceans, where all the hosts are dead and washed up, including Teddy. So this water leads to the next step of evolution, the step to consciousness. Delores says she remembers everything in her past, and she knows what she has to do next. She knows about Arnold's dream. She knows enough about the humans. We see Teddy wearing that black suit that he wore in the trailer, where seemingly they're after something. I think that the next step that Bernard helps them to do is print new bodies. It's their final step from mechanical to organic, and it's the next step that they need to reach the world beyond, where they're not going to be tracked by the humans and the military. We even see a skeleton being printed in Bernard's memories. But that is just one piece of speculation, and I have so much more to say for our breakdown video. I hope you like this video, and I hope the timeline has become a bit more clear. We're going to break down and speculate even further in the breakdown video that is going to be released in the next couple days. But until next time, I'll see you guys later.